You don't know how dangerous that was for me. Good morning. Good to see you all here. Welcome to NVision 2022, Fostering Equitable Development. That thing, I'll turn the light off. There we go. That's an example of what we'll be talking about in session 1 today. This morning, it'll be regarding active transportation and micro-mobility, and that, trust me, when you put the chubby guy on that thing is micro. This is our quadrennial conference for the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments and the Central Naugatuck Valley MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Basically both the same thing, but we have 2 different names. After a number of COVID-related delays, we won't talk about that any longer, here we are, live at the Palace Theater. This is a great place. Just love to be here. We know we're never going to fill the room here, but every chance we get to bring people here, we like to bring them into the Palace. Building is a symbol for us today, both of our industrial past and resurgence for a community that's really on its way back. Waterbury can again become one of Connecticut's great cities. And the same goes for the entire Naugatuck Valley region. At one time, a little bit down at the heel, but the comeback here is dramatic. Started almost 30 years ago with revitalization of brownfields on the industrial waterfront in downtown Shelton. Continues today with an ongoing effort to remake the entire fabric of downtown Bristol. Business development up and down this crossroads of Connecticut. From Thomaston to Plymouth to Bristol, Wolcott, Cheshire, Prospect, down to Ansonia and Derby, to Shelton, up to Seymour, Beacon Falls, Oxford, Southbury, Woodbury, and Bethlehem, with Watertown, Middlebury, and of course, Naugatuck and Waterbury, cities surging toward a rebirth at the center of this region. We're a region that's primed to play a key role in the Connecticut comeback story. We want everyone to have a role in that story, especially those in underrepresented communities who are often left out of the discussion. Connecticut leads the country in many areas of business, and the Valley leads the state in advanced manufacturing, in a state that leads advanced manufacturing in the country. This continued expansion of high tech and the new sort of remote work lifestyle are literally driving housing demand through the roof in our state. So that's why our second session today is going to be focused on housing for the people in Connecticut who make it tick. We're thrilled with new market rate developments across the entire Naugatuck Valley region. In virtually every town and city, we still need to explore ways to make communities more successful, more attractive, by providing the kind of housing that working families in Connecticut need and can afford. Should be a great discussion in that panel with some really good panelists. In our final session this morning, after lunch, we'll wrap up with a panel that's well-versed in community engagement and inclusion. And really, it'll tie together the thread for today's conference, which is when we ask the question, how do we do the things we do? How do we do them all equitably and fairly, with the input of those people most affected by it, the people who live in these regions? So convenient and affordable transportation for everyone, that's something we need to work on. Equitable and affordable housing opportunities in every region and in every market. How do we give the people whose neighborhoods, families, and lives have been devastated by industrial contamination, who've been dissected and disconnected by the construction of the interstate highway system? How do we give those people a voice in the redevelopment of their communities as we continue with all these successful brownfields projects we're doing, private investment dollars that are flowing in, and now this, I won't call it a flood, but a surge of federal infrastructure dollars? So each session today will wrap up with an audience Q&A with the panelists. As you think of them, have some questions ready. There'll be people to go around with microphones during each session. It's not a debate, just to have some questions that might sort of enlarge and enlighten the conversation. The Naugatuck Valley in particular has been historically difficult to organize. There are significant numbers of small, informal, community-based organizations. We've tried to get as many here today this year as we could. But we really don't have a lot of the larger organizations that speak with a loud voice for the entire community. Not even, a few mid-sized ones that speak in a moderate voice. It's really important that we find new ways to reach out and identify neighborhood leaders and others who can participate in these decision-making processes. This is so important as we move on in deciding how to spend new infrastructure dollars and how to plan the long-term projects that are going to make a big difference in how our communities look in 10 years, in 30 years, and in 50 years. And if you don't think that I'm talking about you, I feel like, was it Marco Rubio? If you don't think that I'm talking about you, there's a hovering example of what happens when local residents and businesses are not included in these decisions. That example is the Mixmaster and what transportation planners did in the 1950s and 1960s, literally bisecting neighborhoods, cutting off rivers, wiping out communities, and the connections that make a city. If at that time those planners and those highway engineers had included local businesses and local residents in that decision making, I don't think any of us would imagine that that is what would have resulted. You really have to remember that example throughout the day today, because this period we're about to enter is going to construct more infrastructure than any time since the construction of the highway system, any time since that benighted American experiment with urban renewal. We can do better, and we intend to. So, the NVision conference is primarily designed to take a 5-year look back and a 5-year look forward. Honestly, we really don't have time to do that today. The truth is that we have just too much going on. I can give you a top-line list of the things we've done, the things we're doing, and the things that we're most proud of, like the LOTSIP program. To date, we've helped our towns fund and construct 13 individual road projects, with 7 more projects under construction and 12 more in design. In total, it's $100 million invested in local roads in our communities. It honestly should be more, and it will be more if our CEOs are given a chance to work on it. One of the things we do a lot of right now is competitive grant writing. It's part of a $50 million investment restoring transportation and economic development connections between the valley downtowns of Shelton and Derby. Those of you who know me know that one's close to my heart. Our staff is proud to have worked with the DOT on their successful RAISE grant application of over $12 million for the renovation of the Derby-Shelton rail station. And if it's possible, I'm even more proud of our team for the work they did with the City of Waterbury and the Waterbury Development Corp on their successful application to the RAISE program. They were recently awarded $23.1 million to do complete the water project. I think that's worth a round of applause for the City of Waterbury. So obviously we're refocused right now on those important competitive and discretionary grants, the ones that are available through the federal government. And under the infrastructure bills, we have the potential really to revolutionize how we work together to invest in our communities. It's really just an amazing time to be a planner, and it's an amazing time to be running an MPO. I couldn't be happier about it. Now, looking forward, we still do all the regular work, all the studies that we do for our cities. We continue to undertake important corridor planning studies. We have one in Bristol, one going on in Waterbury, one just got approved for Middlebury, and we have a big one on the drawing boards in Ansonia that we hope to move forward. But we still do hazard mitigation planning. This is really unsexy stuff that protects our communities, that brings in more money and allows them to prosper and tap federal resources. We do land use planning. We have a regional wastewater consolidation study that we've completed. $60 million in savings over 20 years for 3 communities, and clean water for the rest of us. I haven't given up hope on that one. I think those communities are going to get together, and I think they're going to be able to get something going there. As I said, we really don't want to talk about COVID. Suffice to say, our agency reoriented itself for the last 2 years and did a whole bunch of long-term recovery work related to COVID. But I think we're all ready to move on. I know it's not the right thing to say, but I'm not going to talk about COVID anymore today. There is a new area that merits attention and merits mention and points to our future here, which is environmental planning. Some of you may have heard about the ruckus we've raised over the Kinneytown Dam. There we go. Yes, and thank you to Kevin for his work on that. You know, we really can't talk about it today, but I hope that our organizations will be able to make announcements in the near future regarding our fight to restore fish passage on that river. You know, it's been great. Every single one of our CEOs has been lined up in favor of this. The support we've gotten from the federal delegation, Senator Blumenthal, Representative DeLauro, Representative Hayes have been right there for us with Senator Murphy, the whole delegation, even Representative Himes has worked with us on this. So, you know, I have to say that the coalition building that we've done between the environmental groups and government has been really amazing work. It's work at the crossroads of clean water, sustainability, and energy. And then with solid waste management, we're exploring formation of a regional solid waste authority, and we've already secured several sustainable materials management grants for our municipalities. We owe all of that to the vision of our board in allowing us to initiate and build an environmental planning section. I don't think another COG has an environmental planning team strictly dedicated to that task. So anyway, there's just so much to be done. We're really going to expand that group, work hard to get more resources, and not just to help the municipalities avert the waste crisis, but to expand things like distributed renewable energy, to incorporate energy goals in our regional plan of conservation and development, and to make the state more energy efficient. We're doing lots of groundwork on the energy front, and it's really exciting. I think everybody knows about our brownfields program, but they might not know the numbers. We've just done amazing amounts of work. With funding from US EPA, and I think our friends from Region 1 EPA are here with us today, we've completed over $1 million in assessment work. We funded and supervised another $8.4 million in cleanup projects. All told, this astounded me. NVCOG has worked on more than 167 brownfield sites, comprising 22,000 acres in our region and leveraging more than $100 million in non-federal and private investment. It's really just been an incredible success story across our entire region, and all of that investment has been to the benefit of our communities. EPA just rewarded us, I guess is the right way to say it, with another $4 million that we plan to get in the field ASAP. So we're gonna work on that. We've also acquired the Connecticut Brownfields Land Bank, which I think is going to be a great tool in our kit that's going to help us to do so much more for our towns. I should have made this shorter and I wouldn't have to drink. So the thing about energy and environment is we have so much going on that in 4 years when we stand here, I think we're going to be talking about almost exclusively about those things. The rest of the infrastructure will be underway. Now, when we look back on the things we talked about here in 2016, there's been truly astounding progress with what we envisioned around transit-oriented development. One thing I've learned in working with our board, especially Mayor O'Leary, Mayor Loretti, Mayor Hess, Mayor Dunne, First Selectman St. John, we can't waste time. We have to get these projects out of the gate. Yes, we need to plan, but we really need to roll, move fast, and avoid the bureaucracy as much as possible in order to achieve results that investors can use to make new investments, generate new business, and new jobs. Immediately after that last conference, those CEOs came flying out of the gate. Mayor Hess and Mayor O'Leary formed the Naugatuck+Valley Rail Coalition, Rail Committee, and working with everyone, most importantly, with Governor Lamont, Commissioner Giletti, and Commissioner Lehman. But at the time, Governor Malloy got the rail infrastructure rebuilt with the help of the legislature. Those investments were made. The DOT moved to upgrade the line. And as soon as Governor Lamont got into office, he found a way to kickstart new service, frankly, without all of the excuses that we usually get from the state when we want to do something that's going to cost money. It's been really astounding. For the first time, we see an administration that truly understands that a transportation project is really about equity and economic development. Together, our mayors and this governor worked so quickly and with dedication to getting the job done that they've already commenced new rail service over the past 60 days with new stations, platforms, and amenities on the way. This administration actually moved ahead of a study that we started in 2015, and they implemented new service more quickly than I think anyone could have ever imagined, except for probably Pete Hess. He always said it was going to happen fast. As I stand here in 2022, we actually just finally published that original study. You'll see a short video of it today during a lunch break that summarizes the findings and the recommendations. I want you to keep an eye out for it because you'll see that in addition to those rail service improvements, we're calling for bus rapid transit or BRT improvements along the Route 8 corridor to provide comprehensive commuter service between Derby-Shelton Station and Bridgeport Station. We want to serve that major job center along the Route 8 corridor in Shelton and onto Trumbull and down into Bridgeport. It's like 12,000 cars a day that drive immediately into Shelton. And, you know, we've got to get some relief off that Route 8 corridor. Very importantly, those rail infrastructure recommendations also include something that goes beyond, big thanks to the governor, 30 minutes from Waterbury to Bridgeport. We need 30 minutes from Waterbury to New Haven, and that's the next step, and that's really what we want to work on over the next few years with the department. The Naugatuck Valley has a key role to play in Connecticut's future, an important role to play, not only with less expensive housing, but with great downtowns and communities that entertain and create recreational opportunities and are hosts for important businesses, not just in manufacturing, not just in service, hospitality, and entertainment, but in science and data and all those other things that create wealth and create opportunity in Connecticut. You know, the Naugatuck Valley is where it's at. I say that with all my heart. I'm from here. I've never left here, really. But I'm just so happy to be here to do the kind of work that is creating interest from businesses who wouldn't have considered Connecticut 10 years ago. You know, they always knew we had a great workforce. They know we have a great education system. So this part is also important to business and important to the decisions they make about where they locate, because housing and transportation are about business cost as well. Affordability is a key issue for everyone. And the work that we're doing in the Valley, the investments that this administration, Governor Lamont, Commissioner Gilletti, Commissioner Lehman, Deputy Commissioner Dom, Commissioner Katie Dykes, and Commissioner Mark Boughton, they're all looking at important investments here that are going to generate benefits for the entire state. And I can tell you, our chief elected officials stand ready to move quickly on these. When we look at the other things the NVCOG has planned over the last 5 years, and the things that we're not going to get a chance to talk about in detail today, like brownfields, regional policy development for our municipalities, and our municipal shared service projects, this is one of the things that the land of steady habits continues to drag its feet on. You know, I'm sure you all agree, Connecticut's not going to get less expensive if we created more towns or more government, more ways to deliver services. If you believe that, you also have to agree that fewer towns or fewer ways in which we deliver services truly saves money. Consolidation is savings. So we have to figure out how to make this work, folks. There's just no other way around it. We have to save money. Truly, if you want Connecticut to be more competitive, if you want Connecticut to be able to deliver services and attract new business to the state, we have to deliver those services at a lower cost that makes Connecticut more affordable. Remember, consolidation is savings. Finally, and because this is so important, I want to touch again on an area that requires everyone's attention. Earlier, I mentioned exploring creation of a regional waste authority. We're really focusing on solutions here for waste reduction, things like organics diversion. We'll work side by side with DEEP on this and with our towns on those pilots for waste separation. It's a lot going on. It's complicated. A lot of people don't understand it. But the one thing you should all know is that within 5 years, we're going to have a real cost crisis in municipal solid waste. The waste crisis itself is already here. Without diversion and reduction in the amount of waste that we dispose of on an annual basis, we already don't have anywhere to put 1/3 of the trash we generate in Connecticut. This means putting it in trucks, putting it in rail cars, and shipping it to landfills in New York, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. And I'm telling you folks, that don't come cheap. Disposal of any type is an expensive option. Recycling is becoming an expensive option for towns again these days. So we also have to find new markets and new ways to handle recyclables so that they become a profit center again, or at least not a cost center for towns. Solid waste is truly Connecticut's ticking bomb, and we need to find ways to reduce that stream. We need to divert organics for power generation. I'm even going to say yes. We need to talk about the third rail of trash, which is pay as you throw. Nobody likes the idea. Everyone hates it. But if we don't take on ideas like that, if we don't pick up new strategies, the alternative is going to be skyrocketing trash costs for everyone. This is not just a government problem. It's not just a taxpayer problem. This is a problem that will directly affect business and our state's competitiveness, unless we find a way to turn this mess to our advantage. All right. As I introduce our next speaker, I want to turn to one last subject, which is a question I get quite often from people. I've heard it from people in the administration, from commissioners, from members of the press. And I know it sounds like we're here to pat ourselves on the back. It sounds like something else. Are we good, Andy? So, there we go. So I know it sounds like I'm here to pat myself on the back a little bit, so forgive me if this sounds self-congratulatory, but people ask me all the time, why is the Naugatuck+Valley COG successful? How is it that this COG is growing and effective and taking on these new and different ventures? And why does it just look easier to do here? There are a number of reasons, but there is one central reason. That's our board. The chief elected officials of the 19 Naugatuck communities are there for us. But what's really important is the guy who's been there from the beginning, the mayor of our central city of our region, Neil O'Leary. He's chaired the NVCOG since its inception in 2015. The key is that we're blessed with a board that shows up and does the work. They find the time to make the COG a priority like the mayor does. But to have the leader of the center city there, he sits at the table, he attends every meeting, he leads the discussion, and he stays involved in every project. I can't tell you how unusual that is and how important it is to what we do. He leads the way when we try to do new things, and he advocates when he thinks we have good ideas. And for those of you who know him, he's not afraid to stomp on us if we have a bad idea. But the mayor has a great perspective and an understanding on the entire region. That's another one of the keys of his leadership for us. The other thing is, and the other mayors know this, it's not Waterbury, Waterbury, Waterbury. He sits there and he takes the time to make sure everybody's positions are considered. He asks what they need in those other communities. So the really impressive thing is the relationship fostered between the CEOs, urban and suburban. We're successful and able to accomplish many things because the whole NVCOG board works to find common ground despite differences on a few individual issues. They have the confidence that there is a big upside to everyone working together. There's trust between our board members, and that's unlike what I see elsewhere. So it's my honor to introduce the person who's most responsible for this easy and trusting rapport that's given us a leeway to take risks, explore new ideas, and put together the kind of fabulous staff that's exciting to work with. The guy who's been the leader of this entire operation from day one, my boss, the mayor of the city of Waterbury, and the chairman of the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments, the Honorable Neil O'Leary. Mayor?
Anyways, it's a pleasure to be here with all of you. I first of all want to thank all the great people at the Palace Theater for allowing us to host this event here. This is an amazing venue, and we're so happy that we've got a full slate of shows starting soon for the fall and winter, and trying to just get back to normal. How's that sound? Listen, I also want to recognize our sponsors here, which are so very important, particularly Eversource, Mr. Steve Sullivan, who you'll be hearing from a little bit later, is in charge of the Connecticut division. He's here with Jonathan Ferrigno, and Jonathan is our liaison to Eversource, ours meaning Waterbury and Waterbury region. And we are really, really proud of our collaboration and our partnership with Eversource. Before I was in the mayor's office, I was a police chief up the street, and we've always had such incredible, strong relationships with Eversource, especially, of course, in times of need. And the relationship between the city of Waterbury and the NVCOG and Eversource is amazing. I also want to acknowledge and recognize Avangrid. They are another sponsor here today, another a renewable energy source company, of course. And without these sponsors, honestly, it would be very difficult to have this. I am not going to get into a long speech except to say that I'm really proud of our 19 towns in our Naugatuck+Valley COG. As Rick laid out for you, the towns that are involved, we have an amazing collaboration in really different times, right? So the amazing thing I think about the Naugatuck+Valley Council of Governments is the fact that everyone genuinely respects and likes each other. So you have mayors and first selectmen and town managers who all get together at least once a month and talk about needs and challenges and vision. And we work collaboratively. There's no Democrats or Republicans or independents or whatever. It's everyone sitting around a room and really genuinely enjoying each other and learning from one another. So we have really small communities and we have large communities. And the needs are very different and the challenges in some ways are very similar, in other ways not at all. So I am really proud of all 19 cities and towns who are part of Naugatuck+Valley COG. And it's been said from people up at the Capitol that the Naugatuck+Valley COG is by far the most productive and also the most collaborative, and we're proud of that. So without further ado, I know you're all here to listen to the program and get involved with the first session. And as the mayor of the city, of the largest member of the NVCOG, I just want to tell you how grateful we are to see all of you here today participating in what we believe is a really important day, looking back, as Rick mentioned, the last 5 years, but most importantly now learning from the last 5 years and moving forward for the next 5 years. You've heard that the focus is primarily on equity, and we can certainly learn a lot today from all of those initiatives. But most importantly, we need your support. And as important as all of that is your feedback. Your feedback means everything to us so that we can continue to learn from you and what your feelings are, what's important, and what's important to whatever organization you represent here today. And that's what I think makes Naugatuck+Valley COG one of the better COGs in New England. So thank you.